In today's video, I will be talking about the European Union, which is a political and economic union of 28 member states that are located primarily in Europe as at December 2020. So, buckle up and let's go. The EU began as the European Coal and Steel Community, which was founded in 1950 and had just 6 members: Belgium, France, Germany, Italy, Luxembourg, and the Netherlands. It became the European Economic Community in 1957 under the Treaty of Rome, and subsequently became the European Community (EC). So, what is the European Union (EU) itself? The European Union (EU) is a group of 28 countries that operates as a cohesive economic and political bloc. 19 of the countries use the euro as their official currency. The current 28 member states of the EU countries cover a total area of 4.23 million square kilometers, has a population of approximately 448 million, and a total GDP nominal of $15.6 trillion or $20.7 trillion when GDP is measured by purchasing power parity. The EU grew out of a desire to form a single European political entity to end the centuries of warfare among European countries that culminated with World War II and decimated much of the continent. The European single market was established by 12 countries in 1993 to ensure the so-called four freedoms: the movement of goods, services, people, and money. What is the purpose of the European Union? EU policies aim to ensure the free movement of people, goods, services and capital within the internal market, enact legislation in justice and home affairs, and maintain common policies on trade, agriculture, fisheries and regional development. What countries currently make up the European Union? The current EU countries as at December 2020 are Austria, Belgium, Bulgaria, Croatia, Republic of Cyprus, Czech Republic, Denmark, Estonia, Finland, France, Germany, Greece, Hungary, Ireland, Italy, Latvia, Lithuania, Luxembourg, Malta, Netherlands, Poland, Portugal, Romania, Slovakia, Slovenia, Spain and Sweden. How does the EU operate? The 28 nations that belong to the EU work together by participating in a number of common institutions, which set policy and promote their common interests. Here are some of the major ones. 1. The European Council develops the strategies that guide EU policies, and is composed of the heads of state of the member countries, in addition to the President of the European Commission. The Council also has its own president, who is appointed by the member countries. 2. The European Commission in some ways is like the executive branch of the U.S. government, in that carries out the policies developed by the European Council. It's composed of one commissioner from each EU nation. One serves as Commission President, while the others handle various portfolios, from agriculture to trade policy. 3. The Council of the European Union, aka the Council of Ministers, represents the national governments of EU members. The Council might bring together all of the nation's agriculture ministers to discuss farm policy, for example, or convene foreign ministers to talk about how to deal with the Middle East. The Council enacts legislation, usually based upon proposals offered by the Commission and approved by the European Parliament. 4. The European Parliament represents the ordinary citizens of EU countries. It has 751 members who are elected to 5-year terms, and countries are represented in proportion to population size. Unlike, say, United States Congress, the EU Parliament can't write or enact legislation by itself, but in conjunction with the Council, it helps decide how the EU's budget is spent. 5. The Court of Justice interprets EU laws and issues binding rulings. 6. The European Central Bank controls the euro and manages the Union's monetary policy. Decisions taken by the EU regarding economic and social policies are legally binding on all member nations, as long as the majority votes for them. However, for issues relating to security, agreement must be unanimous. One government can veto a decision and end it. For issues relating to justice policy, unanimity was also required, but in 2009, the Treaty of Lisbon changed that to a majority agreement. What is the difference between the EU, Eurozone, and the Schengen countries? The EU is a union of countries who try to share some trade, standards, basic laws and aims. People there have the right to live and work in any of the other countries. The Eurozone is an EU subgroup in which the members use the same currency, the euro. Starting in 1999, some EU member nations began adopting a common currency, the euro, to replace their own national currencies. As of 2018, 19 of the EU's 28 members, a group called the Eurozone, use the euro. In addition to having the same paper money and coins, Eurozone participants share a common central bank, the European Central Bank, which sets a common monetary policy for them all. While having a common currency has advantages, in recent years it's become evident that there are major downsides as well. The Eurozone nations still set their own fiscal policies, and essentially retain authority over their national spending, taxes and international borrowing. That can mean that if a national government mismanages its finances, problems can ripple through the Eurozone system. The Schengen Area is an area comprising 26 European states that have officially abolished passport and all other types of border control at their mutual borders. The area mostly functions as a single country for international travel purposes, with a common visa policy. States in the Schengen Area have eliminated border controls with other Schengen members and strengthened border controls with non-Schengen countries. In the area one can travel without a passport or even showing an ID at the border. The border is essentially inexistent. How do national borders work in the EU? Since 1999, 26 of the EU's member states, Austria, Belgium, the Czech Republic, Denmark, Estonia, Finland, France, Germany, Greece, Hungary, Italy, Latvia, Lithuania, Luxembourg, Malta, the Netherlands, Poland, Portugal, Slovakia, Slovenia, Spain, and Sweden, have chosen to get rid of their own internal border controls. Instead, they've formed the Schengen Area, named after the town in Luxembourg where the agreement was signed. For travel and immigration purposes, the area essentially functions as one big country, with common rules for visas, asylum requests and border checks. There's an exception built in the rules that allows a country to reimpose its own controls for a short time when there's a major security threat or some international event, such as a sports championship or a big conference of world leaders. Now let's take an example. The UK was a member of the EU until recently. Its currency is the British pound, so the UK is not in the Eurozone. They also chose to not be part of the border union, and so even though a French has the right to go live and work there, he has to show a passport at the border, airports, for instance. Norway is not part of the EU or the Eurozone, but part of Schengen, so you can go from Sweden to Norway, and all you'll see is the welcome sign by the road. Why would countries want to leave the EU? Article 50 of the Treaty of Lisbon, signed by member nations back in 2007 and effective in 2009, requires the EU to negotiate a severance with any nation that gives at least 2 years' notice that it intends to leave. So far, though, only one nation has opted to do that. In June 2016, the UK held a referendum on whether it should invoke Article 50, though most people knew it as Brexit. Though polls had predicted otherwise, UK voters shocked Europe by voting 52 to 48% to leave the EU. So, what are positives and negatives of the European Union? The advantages of the European Union include: 1. There are no tariffs, and also free trade within the Union creates a sense of unity. 2. It stops richer nations such as Germany, France, from controlling less wealthy nations. 3. The common currency helps to reduce currency exchange fluctuation. 4. The EU has opened up a lot of job opportunities. 5. Due to the Union, there is no conflict between affiliate nations. 6. Laws are imposed by the European Committee and Parliament. 7. Regional growth funds are given by the EU to encourage education of people. 8. The EU Central Bank tracks interest rates. The disadvantages the European Union include: 1. Meeting regulatory requirements imposed by the EU is difficult for some of the member nations. For example, fishing trade in the case of Iceland. 2. No common language spoken by all EU members, makes communication harder. 3. The EU limits the power and responsibility of the various nations, as they have less control over their own affairs. 4. Member countries are restricted by regulations, as it allows outside countries to influence EU member nations. 5. With the EU, the borders of Europe isn't defined, and as a result, countries such as Morocco, which isn't even on the continent, want to join. 6. Member countries have less say in what is bought and sold within their borders. 7. It is difficult for EU member countries to withdraw from the EU if they no longer want to be members. 8. The EU can throw out leaders of member nations if it wants to. So, we can surmise that there are both positives and negatives for countries within the EU. The EU allows them to trade better and more easily with no tariffs or trade barriers. However, it can also have the opposite effect of making it harder to trade with superpower nations outside the EU such as the USA and China, due to numerous restrictions and legislations set by the European Committee and Parliament. Now let's talk about Brexit. Advocates of Brexit argued that the EU was a bad deal for the British, because it allowed workers from elsewhere in Europe to migrate to the UK and drive wages there down. They also felt that the EU had too much say over the affairs of the UK. Others complained that the EU's regulations for fighting climate change and increasing renewable energy use were costly burdens to the UK economy. One think tank calculated that the annual cost of fulfilling the 100 most burdensome EU regulations was US $42.6 billion. The Brexit decision had all sorts of consequences and complications, many of which voters probably didn't foresee. For instance, the governor of the Bank of England said in May 2017 the UK had already lost 2% of predicted growth and 4% from household incomes since the referendum. And the think tank's calculation, others noted, didn't even account for the annual $75.12 billion in benefits Britain gained from being in the EU. On the other hand, in December 2017, the firm EY predicted the UK would lose 10,500 financial industry jobs on day one of Brexit, as banks, brokerages and other financial companies started moving their operations to the continent to ensure that they'd still have unfettered access to European customers. But the City of London Corp downgraded that loss to just 5,000 in August 2018. The real number, of course, is still a mystery. Another unsettled matter is what happens to the border between Northern Ireland, part of the UK, and the Republic of Ireland, which is remaining in the EU. The 1998 Belfast Agreement, which put an end to the fighting in Northern Ireland, also did away with border checks. Neither the UK nor Ireland wants a return to border checks, but as of late 2020, they hadn't figured out a way to resolve this. Is it really true that EU was a bad deal for the British? No, the EU was not a bad deal for Britain, and Brexit was sold on a bunch of falsehoods, such as that the EU was preventing UK from doing things that it wasn't in fact preventing UK from doing. That the EU stole UK's fishing rights, when in fact, they'd sold it themselves. That membership was a bad deal for the UK when it was actually a good deal. That the EU was facilitating illegal immigrants coming to Britain, when it was in fact desperately trying to figure out how to duck out of its legal responsibility towards refugees. Do they even realize that once the UK is outside of the EU, then Calais becomes a convenient way for the EU to vent its unwanted illegals to them? That new and better trade deals would be easy to find and enter into. That the money not sent to the EU would magically be available to and find its way to the NHS, rather than being soaked up by the losses and costs of Brexit. That the UK was regaining sovereignty, despite that word having no clear or well-defined meaning, given that all international trade deals put constraints on a country, especially ones made with giants like the US and China. That leaving the EU would automatically create a more hostile environment for immigrants in the UK. To an extent this is true, but Theresa May had already embarked on that, and the degree to which the UK will further clamp down on immigrants is more a function of the right-wing populism unleashed than the technicalities of EU membership. Now, let's address the future of the EU. Another uncertainty in the EU's future, besides Brexit, is its relationship with the US, with which it traditionally has worked to develop trade with other parts of the world. But in 2017, the US got a new president, Donald Trump, who disliked multilateral trade agreements and wanted to make bilateral deals between the US and other countries. According to Washington Post columnist Josh Rogin, at one point Trump even boldly asked French President Macron why he didn't quit the EU, and offered France a better trade deal if it left. After Trump hit Europe with steel and aluminum tariffs in 2018, many feared that a trade war would erupt. But in July of that year, Trump and EU officials seemed to call a truce. European Commission President Jean-Claude Juncker and Trump stood side by side at the White House to announce a deal in which the EU agreed to buy billions of dollars in U.S. exports such as soybeans and natural gas, and the U.S. agreed to work with the Europeans to avoid additional tariffs. If those negotiations fail, the US and the EU could continue to drift apart. Some experts think the EU might seek a closer relationship with China instead. But never has the EU's future seemed so rife with uncertainties. It wasn't too hard to understand why Macron and other European leaders seemed determined to make the UK feel economic pain for leaving. That's because if the EU made it easy and painless to quit, there was a danger that other countries, especially ones with rising far-right, anti-immigration political movements, such as Sweden, might follow. So, this was all about the European Union, a political and economic union of 28 member states that are located primarily in Europe. Hope you liked this video. If you want to see more of these videos, let me know by subscribing to this channel and pressing the bell icon. Thank you, and see you next time with another video. Bye.